Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the custom buttons tutorial. In the last tutorial we basically made these buttons that you could click on. They would grow and change colors and then shrink back down. In this tutorial we are going to refine these buttons a little bit, add some polish to them. So you can still drag them, release them, but now they're scaling up nice and smoothly. We did that using something called Lean Tween, which is an asset you can get off the asset store for free. And we also hooked the buttons up using UnityEvents to affect other objects. So you can see this guy changed colors when I clicked on this guy. This sphere changed colors when I clicked on this one. The text up here has been changing back and forth between these two buttons. And in this tutorial, I'm also going to demonstrate how you can change some properties using UnityEvents without doing any coding. So you can see here, right here, there is a nice inspector element that allows you to drop in components into a slot here and then determine which part of a component you want to affect. In this case, we are affecting the TextMesh Pro UGUI string text. So this gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of power to chain events or perform multiple events at once. So you can have 4, 10, a ton of objects just react to a button click. And then Lean Tween clearly is a tool that you can use to polish some of the effects you want to create in your games. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. We've got these buttons here, which really aren't buttons. They're just images that are accepting some of the events that come through the event system. But so we want to be able to hook these up to something. And a really good way to do that is through either UnityEvents or through another subscription or delegate method using C#. So the quick way to do this and the way that Unity implements everything is through the UnityEvent system. And I'll go ahead and open up our script, our custom button script, which is right here. And we are going to add a public Unity event, and we'll call this on button press maybe for the click handler. We could also use it for the pointer up handler. Also, you're going to want to add this using statement using UnityEngine.events. Now what this does for us is adds a delegate that you can tie into, but also in the inspector window, it adds this nifty inspector element where you can just drop in different components to listen for this button press. So let's say I wanted one button to listen for another button press. I could drop it in here, and then if there was a function on this custom button to react to a button press, we could certainly call that function. And just as an example, this really makes little to no sense, but I'm going to do this anyway. We'll go ahead and just grab this and refactor it into its own method. So I'm going to extract this into a method. I just right-clicked on it. And it created a method. I already clicked on the lines of code and hit quick, quick actions and refactorings. And I'm going to say change color, or maybe change to random color. We'll hit enter there. And so that made this whole thing a method of its own. All it does is gets a random Unity color. Actually, you can see that Unity Engine is grayed out. Means we don't really need to call it there. And then it calls the image component, the color property of that component, and sets it to the random color. Now I'm going to make this public as opposed to private. And this will allow me to tie one button into another. So in the inspector, we had this slot here for a Unity event on button press. I'm going to drop in one of my other buttons, and it's essentially going to react to the button press. So this is our first button, and let me just drag this over so I know which button it is. I could also start it off in a different color. So that's our first button. And we've got our second button, and I'll just set this one to a different color so we know which one is going to react. So anytime I press this, this guy should change colors. Should be as simple as that. I'm going to just save that real quick. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't see anything here. So I'll go ahead and just give this a quick test. Okay, click on this, and I am missing something. Let's have a look here. So custom button 2. This is calling custom button. Yes, I am missing something. So even though I've hooked it up on the inspector, there's nothing actually calling this on button press. So what we need is to call this method at some point. We said that we wanted to do it in the on pointer click handler. So we'll find the on pointer click handler, which should be in here. Pointer up, pointer down, pointer click right here. And we are going to call this and just invoke it. So real quick, for those of you who are not familiar with this question mark here, this basically just checks to make sure that there is somebody subscribed to this. So it's the same as saying if on button press does not equal null, which means that someone is subscribed to it, then call on button press. So it's just like that. Or on button press.invoke. Same thing, just much cleaner, single line. That's all that's needed. All right, so let's try this again. I'm going to click on the red button, and the yellow button will change colors, as well as the red button. So there we go. We've got some reaction happening there. Now this is more like a button because we're pressing it, and an action is actually happening somewhere in the scene. So you can start to hook up a button like this into all sorts of things, both through the inspector and through code. Doesn't make sense to hook it up through code right now since we have it already, or we've only got buttons in here really, and they're all using the same script. But if we did want to hook something up with code, we could just, let's say, drop some text in here. So let's get out of play mode. Okay, what I did there was just imported the Text Mesh Pro assets, and there we go. We've got some text here, and I will go ahead and just align this to the top left, and we'll just say button reaction example, and let's drop that down to 20 and make it wider. We'll say 400. Okay, so we're going to create a script here, and we'll just call this button reactor, and we'll drop it on our text. We'll drop it right here on our text. There we go. Let's pop that open. And in here, we could do a couple different things to try and hook this up to our buttons. We can have a button reference in here, so serialize field, and we will say react to button, or I'll just say, I don't know, button, I don't know, let's call it controlling button. I don't really know. I'm just going to say button for now. BTN. Okay, and then in our start, we can listen to this button. So there is an on click, and actually, I just made a mistake. This isn't button. We were actually trying to call custom button, BTN. So BTN dot on button press dot add listener. Handle button pressed, and we'll go ahead and control period, hit enter, and here we can say get component text mesh pro u GUI. It's not auto completing because I haven't added my using statement for text mesh pro using TM Pro, and we want to change the text property equals this button was pressed. Okay. So if we hook up any of these buttons, say we want to drag in our first button because we've been using that one. Let me scroll down here. Just hide these things. And we want to drag in our first button, because it seems to be the button that we're using to control a lot of stuff. Now it should change our button text, our button reaction example text to this button was pressed. And it's just going to keep assigning it every time the button's pressed. So nothing fancy there, but you can see now we've hooked it up through code instead of the inspector. And so certainly you could hook up this text object in through code and using this event, this Unity event here, and you can modify different parts of your components. So in this case, we did want to modify our text as we did in the example where we did this with code. We can do this also without any code. So this, we'll just say text changed without, oops, I can spell, without code. And we can add a little bolding if I can type. There we go. Okay, so this is on custom button 2, which is our yellow button. So we'll hit our yellow button first. Text change without code, and then we'll hit our red button. Boom, this button was pressed. So now you see we're getting a lot of reactions happening very quickly without really doing a whole lot. We've got this button controlling the color of this button. We've got this button controlling the text of this button through code. And really, it's the code on this object that's being affected. And then we've got this button changing the text of this text object without any code. And it's all done in the inspector. But so there you've got some ideas of how you can start hooking buttons up to other things. And you don't have to limit yourself to 2D objects. You can certainly change 3D objects as well. Quick example. Got our sphere in here. Just reset that position. It's at 0, 0. See if we can make this thing bigger. It's hidden behind our buttons. Let's see, it's hidden behind this one right here. There we go. So again, you can do this through the inspector, or you can do this through code. I'm going to go ahead and add a slot there in my on button press. I will see if I can get my mesh renderer, and let's see if we can get, I'm not sure if we can do this, but let's see if we can get our material, so we can swap out a material. Let's create a new material. Changing the color through code is certainly more straightforward, but let's custom sphere material. So now we said on button 3, we're going to change the material to custom sphere material. And I'll just pick a wacky color here. Let's go with this purplish, and we'll make it metallic and shiny. There we go. That looks cool. Oh, I'm in play mode. Well, that's terrible. Okay. Well, there you go. So it's not going to, well, will it save? I don't think it's going to save. Let me go ahead and move this out. Create my sphere again. Scale that sphere up. Oh, let's drop it back into the middle of the scene, and we'll scale this sphere up. Go to button 3, add a slot, drop the sphere in there, go to mesh renderer, material, and drop in our custom sphere material. Hit save and test this. I don't remember which button was button 3. There we go. Button 3. And you could certainly have more materials and have each button affect the material of this sphere. So there you can see how powerful this editor inspector window is for Unity events. You can certainly change a lot of different things. You could change the transform, you could start moving things around. You could change the hierarchy. I mean, there's a lot of things in here. You feel free to just poke around and see if there's something interesting that you might want to use in the future. It's certainly good to have an idea of all this stuff as you're trying to solve different problems in your games and experiences. Okay. One last thing I kind of want to go through, just because I really like this, is Lean Tween. Lean Tween. I think it's a good tool to have installed. Okay, so Lean Tween. Let's get this installed. And again, Unity 2019 has the asset store window that still works. In 2020 and up, they've detached the asset store from Unity. You have to go directly to the website and get your assets that way. You add them to your account, and then I think they become available in the package manager. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've imported Lean Tween, and there you have it. It comes with all these folders, examples, shows you a series of different examples here. There's some pretty cool things going on, but I'll let you explore those in your own time. But let's imagine you want a button to expand or like scale up gracefully and shrink down gracefully instead of just popping like we have it. So right now, you click it, it pops up, pops down. Another nice thing would be like a rollover effect. What happens when your mouse cursor goes into the button? But let's do just the scale up and scale down on press first. So we're going to go ahead and open up our custom button script. And that's just going to pop right up. Just going to pop right up. Let's reload that. And on our pointer click, let's see, we're not doing it on a pointer click. We're doing it on pointer down and pointer up. So we've got our transform local scale. We're going to say Lean Tween. Now, Lean Tween is a bunch of static methods. Lean Tween local scale. I'm sorry, scale. I guess there's no local scale. And then we want to either give it a game object or a transform rect. In this case, we're going to give it the transform rect because these are part of the UGUI system. Get component rect transform. And we are going to scale it to 1.25. So our transform dot scale, the local scale, times 1.25. Just like we have it down there, and we'll give it a time. So let's say we want it to happen over a quarter of a second. So 0.25. And we can Control K, see that. And then we will want to scale it back down to, we said original scale. Control K, see that. And now we should have some animation happening. Now where it gets tricky is that the animations, they queue up. So if you click really fast with a lean tween, then you'll have animations overlapping each other. Now you can do this animation with colors, scales. There you can see it's kind of a nice pop. Let's go ahead and stop that. You can also change the way that they ease. So set ease, and we can say set ease in, out sine. So it's a sine wave. So that would be kind of slow in, slow out. And we can do the same for our other transition there. Okay. And then maybe should we get bold and try lean tween dot color? So I'm not sure. See, there's only one overload here. I'm not sure if this works on the rect transform. Yes, it does. So let's also try this on the rect transform. Transform, rect transform. And we're going to say the color that we want. So here, let's get a random color. We'll just, you know what, we'll make a new method. We'll call it private color. Generate random color. And we can pull this out. Put that right in there. And actually, why don't we just duplicate it for now. So Control C, Control V that. And instead of setting it equal to, we'll just say return. And we will call it right here, generate random color. And again, the float time, we're going to do 0.25 to match up with our other animation here. And we'll add our ease. And then we don't need to do anything on the way out. So let's see if that works. There you go. It's actually lerping between two colors, which is nice. It's going pretty fast. I'm going to slow it down, which will go well beyond the animation of the button, but it should look better. Yeah. So there we go. There's some nice animations happening there. As you can see, like I said, there are problems with clicking quickly where you're firing off too many lean tweens, and you can get around this by issuing a lean tween.cancel. We can say cancel all right before we call our other lean tweens. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and test that, and it should cancel anything if I... Oh, it's not working quite the way I was hoping. These guys are still growing. Huh. They do come back down to size. But another way to do this is that once you've pressed, don't accept another press until all of this animation's done. So we could say something like Boolean is pressed equals false, and then on pointer down, if is pressed, or this could be is ready, return. And then if it's not is pressed equals true. So now we're not accepting another press until this gets set back to false. And let's set it back to false down here. So once the pointer is released, then false will happen. And I'm thinking maybe that's still not going to work because the animation still hasn't finished. So I'm right. So another thing we can do is we can say set on complete, and we'll make a quick lambda function here. And we'll just move this in here. So now this lambda function is basically saying once this animation completes, then do some logic. Okay. So there we go. Not sure if I'm... Well, so I'm not able to make this grow. There still is some funky business going on when I click quickly. You can see it's still firing off the events. And the button's not growing when I click too fast. So something to solve there. In any event, I hope a lot of this has been helpful, and I hope it's been cool. Some interesting things we've got going on here that I think can really bring your games, your interactivity to the next level. And certainly feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this. Subscribe to my page, to my YouTube channel, so you get updates for new YouTube videos. And I will try and continue to expand on these concepts, bring more of what I've learned over my years developing in Unity to you. All right, thank you.